From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, I'm Cata Gonzalez, and this is From the South. People around the world are commemorating International Workers' Day with marches and rallies. The day originated in the United States in the 19th century when the labor union movement rose up against unjust working conditions and demanded better pay, reasonable hours, and also paid leave. And thousands have been gathering in Cuba since 5 in the morning to take part in the traditional May Day march in Havana. Children, students, and workers are commemorating the achievement for workers in one of the most important events of the Cuban Revolution. President Miguel Díaz-Canel and Raúl Castro were also attending the celebration. Now let's hear late leader Fidel Castro addressing this crowd during the celebrations 19 years ago.
Revolution is the most important in a historic moment. It means to change everything that needs to be changed. It's equality and complete freedom, to be treated and to treat others as human beings, to empower ourselves with our own efforts to defy powerful forces inside and outside. It means to defend values we believe in and to pay the price of any sacrifice. It's modesty, selflessness, altruism, solidarity, and heroism. It's to fight with audacity, intelligence, not to lie or violate our ethical principles. It's a deep conviction that there's no force in the world that can destroy the strength of the truth and the ideas. Revolution is unity, independence, fighting for just dreams for Cuba and the world, which is the basis of our patriotism, socialism, and internationalism.
And workers are taking to the streets in Ecuador for May Day to demonstrate against government austerity measures. Our correspondent, Denise Herrera, is at the march and sent us this report.
Ecuadorian workers are marching today in the framework of International Workers' Day. They are marching against the latest measures imposed by President Lenin Moreno. They are against the privatization of public companies. They are against the recent massive layoffs. They are against also to the agreement signed with the IMF. Also, it's the first time that different organizations of women are marching today in Ecuador in defense of their rights.
That was Denise Herrera from Quito. And the Resistance Heartbeat Drummers Foundation in St. Vincent and the Grenadines is standing in solidarity with the government and the people of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela in the face of an attempted coup. Their members condemn the aggressions of the United States against the Venezuelans, which include a financial blockade and military threats.
I'd like to express profound solidarity with the government and people of Venezuela. We are asking the Western powers, the so-called Western powers, to keep their hands off of Venezuela. Let the people of Venezuela determine their own destiny. You cannot impose on people your kind of democracy or your prescribed democracy. We have seen so many instances of this around the world. We have so many states that are in disarray, principally because the United States and others have gone in and tried to impose their style and brand of democracy on the people. Hands off of Venezuela. The attempted coup by the reactionaries in Venezuela must be condemned by all. And the Venezuelan people must be left to determine their destiny. Hands off of Venezuela. Let the legitimate government of the people run the country and take Venezuela to the next level.
I would like to, on behalf of the St. Vincent Cuba Friendship Society and the Vincentian people, to extend our solidarity with the people of Venezuela, and particularly today with the working people, in terms of the aggression of the United States and those who are encouraged by it internally. We stand firmly with the people of Venezuela in their path for development, and in resisting those attacks, we think it is of fundamental importance that the rest of the Caribbean provide support and solidarity to Venezuela at this time.
South African opposition leader Julius Malema has urged the country's workers to take advantage of the coming elections to elect a government that will take welfare of workers seriously. Addressing thousands of supporters who attended his party's Workers' Day rally in Johannesburg, Malema accused the government of allowing international investors to exploit the country's workers. He promised to hold investors accountable if his party wins the May 8th elections. Palestinians held a rally in Gaza during Workers' Day celebrations, demanding jobs and better living conditions. They demanded the implementation of workers' rights and that employment opportunities be offered to the marginalized class of the Palestinian society. In the context of the Israeli blockade on Palestine, unemployment increased to 31% in 2018, up from 28% last year.
We ask those responsible for a decent life. No worker in Gaza or Darfur is living in good conditions. Workers are exhausted. We want to live a dignified life. Enough with the lying and the humiliation.
And after the attempted coup in Venezuela on April 30th, President Maduro published a tweet for Workers' Day. In his Twitter account, he addressed the Venezuelans saying, "Happy Workers' Day. The working class has in me a president who will always defend their rights, facing the empire who wants to take away our conquests. They will fail. We will win." And Venezuelans are demonstrating on the streets for Workers' Day and celebrating after this attempted coup failed.
We are celebrating International Workers' Day before we lived in a different time, before workers marched in support of powerful businessmen. The real people did not march, but with President Chavez we learned that our rights are. We didn't know before. I am 70 years old and I didn't march before. We are experiencing a process that will lead us to change. And for that, we are here supporting Chavez and President Nicolás Maduro. They can say anything about Maduro, but he is very intelligent. No one has the president we have.
We have won this battle again, and we will keep on winning. We won't lose this battle. They have made a mistake about Venezuela. Our country is a powerful, revolutionary country, ready for anything, to defend the nation and humanity. We are a part of this continent, and what happens in Venezuela is reflected in Latin America, and Latin America is watching what is happening in Venezuela.
On Tuesday night, President Maduro gave a news conference in which he rejected the use of violence by the right wing in the attempted coup. He also said that 5 loyal soldiers were injured and that 2 are in critical condition.
War machine guns from the Republic that are used to defend the sovereignty of the nation against any aggression that Venezuela could suffer, now used that have to be used for the Constitution, for the institutionality, now irresponsibly used in service of that coup attempt of the empire in Colombia. A few futile attempts to push us towards a civil war. Placed in the highway, we acted with tear gas canisters, with smoke grenades, and they responded to smoke grenades with bullets. They were shooting at the armed personnel that were defending La Carlota Air Force Base.
President Maduro also said that they won't allow imperialists to lay their hands on Venezuela and asked the people to stay alert.
Maximum alert against lies, against cheats, against coup attempts, and maximum alert for truth, for the civic military union and peace for our country. There are those from foreign powers that want us to kill each other. inside Venezuela to justify an intervention, to justify the worst possible scenario for the empire to put their hands in Venezuela. We will not allow it, and by no circumstance we will not allow it.
On top of that, the Venezuelan president said that the opposition action was a show and that the plan failed because the people of Venezuela want peace.
Today the objective was a show, a spectacle. By this spectacle of violence, to go to the center of where for 2 decades the opposition has gathered. And they thought that by dawn there'll be 1 million people there, and with those 1 million people and those weapons to march against Miraflores, looking for fight, to look for barren land. But they failed in their plan. They failed in their call because the Venezuelan people want peace. All Venezuela wants peace, except a minority that wants violence and military interventionism. That is not the way of Venezuela. The violence, armed conflict. Venezuelans always should and want to talk, respect, and to solve their problems through constitutional means and dialogue.
We'll take a short break now. Don't go away.
Our actions have an impact on the environment. It's our responsibility to change for the sake of our planet. Let's be part of this transition. Watch, preserve, and protect your Earth. Green Zone. Wednesdays, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. Loyal soldiers on Tuesday defended the Carlota military air base in Caracas as the opposition failed to take control of the base. Our correspondent Madeline Garcia has a report.
Rumors had spread on social media that military deserters had taken control of the Carlota military base, but that was not true.
I want to deny the comments that have been circulating that the Carlota airbase has been taken. We are all here at the airbase, officials, troops, staff, who are loyal to our commander Chavez, loyal to our commander-in-chief Nicolas Maduro. And I also want to say that a good part of those soldiers got in touch with me, and they went back to the base because they were deceived.
They were deceived and did everything they could to present themselves to their commander.
At 3 a.m. they sent us to look for rifles to the armory, and they told us that we are going to take over the Tocoran prison, because they have entered 1,000 rifles and they are going to take the prisoners out, so they can go and fight against the people. That meeting was going to be with 7 and 5 commands. They told us that we are going to leave from Altamira to the Tocoran prison, and we didn't. When we got there, what they did was, they gave us a bracelet, they blocked the road and told us that this was a coup d'etat.
They joined the rest of the troops to defend the military base. Suddenly shots were heard from the direction of the Altamira distributor next to the Carlota base. That was the moment the military deserters and some civilians started firing their weapons. One of the loyal soldiers was ambushed in the middle of the operation to control the situation and managed to run from the coup perpetrators.
I don't know what to think. Turncoat soldiers. It's not possible that your own soldiers wearing the same uniform aim a rifle at you and say to you that they are going to kill you, knowing that we are one and the same.
The military base La Carlota was besieged. It was one of the targets of the deserters. The opponents managed to take down a part of the fence. Despite the deserters bringing down the perimeter height, the military didn't shoot at them. They opted for dialogue. The opponents managed to set on fire a part of the Air Force base. The fire destroyed motorcycles, vehicles, and an office. The military helicopters were sheltered. At the end of the day, the deserters couldn't take over the Carlota military base, and the soldiers remained loyal.
And our correspondent Jorge Estoso explains how the attempted coup in Venezuela was shown on media. Let's listen.
The Monroe Doctrine is back, has said this morning the National Security Advisor John Bolton in a program on television on Fox News, Fox and Friends. The Monroe Doctrine in 1823 says America for the Americans, and he was referring that the rhetoric that has been spread in the last few hours, especially after the coup d'etat of Guaidó in Venezuela, a word, coup, that has been also utilized by John Bolton in that interview, though he's admitting that he was a coup, not necessarily what they're trying to portray in hours before, that was just the restoration of democracy. America for the Americans, the doctrine of Monroe, is referred that the rhetoric is that Venezuela is run not by Venezuela, if not by the Cubans and the Russians, and that's the Cold War 2.0. And the theory, and in that conversation of Mr. John Bolton, was the United States is not going to allow that in this continent Russia will run anything. As simple as that. That is the latest, the most relevant issue that has been taking place this morning here in Washington.
That was Jorge Estoso, our correspondent in Washington. Now we go to other news. Guyana's government is defending its decision to honor a former legislator who died in a U.S. jail after being convicted of terrorism charges. The National Assembly passed a resolution paying tribute to former lawmaker Abdul Qadir, who died in June last year. The U.S. Embassy has issued a statement condemning the move. In response, the government said it was a custom and had no intention of glorifying a terrorist. Qadir was sentenced to life in prison after being found guilty of plotting a terror attack at JFK Airport in New York in 2007. A state of public emergency has been declared in western Jamaica, in the parishes of St. James, Hanover, and Westmoreland, amid an increase in violent crimes. Murders are up by almost 50% over the same period last year.
After careful consideration and review of the crime statistics, in particular violent crimes, which have been committed in some western parishes, the security forces have advised that the situation now currently exists would warrant the government advising the Governor General to proclaim a state of public emergency.
The government of Antigua and Barbuda is insisting that a university campus will be opened there in September, whether or not it is affiliated with the University of the West Indies. Prime Minister Gaston Brown made the announcement, saying that several Caribbean countries are now raising concerns regarding the opening of the campus. There are 3 UWI campuses in Jamaica, Trinidad and Barbados. LIAT is staying in the air in spite of its financial challenges. The commitment is coming from the regional airline's chief executive officer, who says they would push to continue their daily operating schedule. The carrier had operated all its flights over the peak Easter season with an on-time performance of 80%. The CEO, Julie Rayford-Jones, says that the airline was looking forward to a summer period with festivals and events across the region. She added there were discussions on the need for all the territories served by LIAT to contribute financially. Meanwhile, St. Kitts and Nevis says it will provide $370,000 in emergency funding for LIAT. The airline needs roughly $5.5 million to stay afloat. Shareholder governments ended a meeting on Tuesday, agreeing to give a further consideration to a proposal by Antigua's Prime Minister regarding the future of the Antigua-based airline. CARICOM's Secretary General has called on regional heads to push ahead with the full implementation of the long-overdue Caribbean single market and economy. He was speaking at the Council for Trade and Economic Development in Guyana.
We cannot come to meetings after meeting after meeting, agree on a plan. The plan is now published on our website for all to see, and we're not making progress without even giving reasons why we're not making progress. So I repeat, implementation cannot be a shift in target. We have to report to our heads of government. Our leaders have taken the decision based on the advice that has come from the cartel.
Police in Honduras have clashed with hundreds of people who were protesting against proposed education and healthcare reforms. According to health authorities, at least 3 people were injured. Many fear that the proposed reforms will lead to privatization and job losses in both sectors. Teachers and health worker unions have vowed to maintain pressure on the government until the proposals are withdrawn.
The 2 projects that were harmful to the interests of the people have already been eliminated. Now the biggest goal is to get President Juan Orlando Hernandez out, to take out the dictator.
We have more stories coming up. Stay with us.